Homework part 2, the sequel. How many people got this done again? Pretty good. Add a due date to each thing and make sure that it persists. Your hint was that there's an input type of date in HTML5. All right, where do we even start? Who feels confident in their answer? It's going to be the same people, right? All right. Don't take it personally. Sitting in the back row now. That's right, Mr. Faircloth. Okay, so in the thing.js, we need another input. Right now we have the checkbox, we have the content editable. So let's put one maybe next to that. Type, not text, right? But date. Let's check out just that much. Hey, neato. I did not mean to put it after actions. That looks weird. Better. Ooh, and we get this little calendar widget for free in mini browsers. Other browsers don't deserve it. Okay. Add another property to thing. So we got ID name completed, and now something for the due date. I'm going to name it due at, because I like to name date fields that way. Or due on if it's just a date without a time, I guess. Due on is fine. So then you can say due on blah 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 date. And what did you put here as default value? Empty string. In browsers that don't have a fancy date thing, by the way, this is just going to be treated as a text field. Empty string should work. If I add a new one, notice it doesn't like put something goofy in here. It just leaves it blank like we expect. Good enough. Okay, so back in thing, we need to do a little magic. What do you say? What do I do now? All right. So we're going to do almost exactly the same thing that we did for name. It's even more similar to the other one because there's not a checkbox, right? So I'm smelling some duplication. And I don't like the smell. So let's talk about the dry principle. Dry, don't repeat yourself. The opposite of the wet principle. Write everything twice. Or if you prefer, we enjoy typing. So let's keep it dry and see if we can make one method to rule them all. So let's look at update name. Let's rename it just handle changes. And before we forget, let's update our onChange down here. No longer update name, now it's handle changes. And let's go ahead and put that on here. OnChange equal this dot handle changes. And just renaming it does what we want. No, that doesn't. We're not done. It works on name. We need to make it work for the other one. So let's see what we can do. So handle changes, they usually call it, or handle change, like in all the examples. Here's an example, I think. Does this have an example? Handle change, yeah. I had a feeling that was the case. Handle change. Pretty common name for a method in React. So what would need to change here? Who can tell me something about this method that would need to change if it's going to handle more than just the name? .name, right? Can't hard code name in here. We're going to have some other way to get the name of the field. So how are we going to do that? We don't have a way yet. So back in plain old HTML, JavaScript days before React, we would typically put a name on an input. We can still do that. So we could say input type equals checkbox. Yeah, we'll worry about checkbox later. Class name name. Well, in that case, it happens to have a class name that's right. But let's put name equals name. And we can use quotes instead of curly braces because it's a string value, a string literal. Input name equals, I called it do on, which is just like a clue to me as I'm reading through the property list that that thing's a date. Now, how can I get that once I'm in the event handler? Handle change. Let's see what we got. See if I throw a debugger in here. Let's change something. Let's change name, just to see if name is something we can get to. Thing 45. I did not hit that. Why did I not hit that? Because I renamed it from handle changes to handle change. That's why. Thing 45. All right. Let's look at our event. Okay, it's one of these funny little events. Let's look at event.target. That's this object that has a value. So we can get the value right out of there. If we do event.currentTarget, then we get the actual div. If we say currentTarget.name, unfortunately that doesn't work. But we could say currentTarget get attribute, get attribute name. That would give us what we want. Let's look at we already had something up here about controlled components. Let's see if they have any suggestions that are any different from that. So the problem is here, the value is hard-coded in there. How can we get the name out of the darn thing? How can we make a one-size-fits-all thing? Well, our way works. Okay, killer bees, I don't know. So we said we could get the name of the field that we're changing. So you could say field name, property name, whatever you want to call it, by saying event current target dot get attribute name. So knowing that I've got that, how can I change line 18, the next line, to fit more than one field? What do I change there? So Liz, you had a problem with putting dot name there. Now that we've got name stored in a variable called field, what can I do instead of dot name? Say it again. So, I mean, you're thinking along the right way, right? So we want something like that, except field is a variable, which means we can't use dot syntax. What's the other way of accessing a property on an object? Somebody else other than Mohawk, because he's way too excited about answering this. Brackets. Was that Devin who said that? Brandon? Oh, okay. Grayson? Okay, I couldn't tell. Thing. Brackets field, right? Look familiar? So dots and brackets do the same thing. It's just that if you have, if you use brackets and you have the exact name of the thing, you need to put it in quotes, right? But you can also put variables in there, which you can't do if you use the dot. The dot can't take a variable, and the dot cannot take something that has spaces or dashes or things like that in it, right? So let's see. Does that do what we want to do? Take our debugger out. We didn't do any Ajax. What are you talking about? Okay. Let's try changing the name, see if it still works. Refresh. It changed. Does the date work? Change it to April 4th. Refresh the page. April 4th is not there. So I probably screwed something up. Name equals name. Name equals due on. Back in app.js, I called it due on. Oh. Yeah. So that's updating Firebase, but we're not doing anything to make this field actually display that value, right? We've made the change one way, but we need it the other way. So just like we had to say HTML gets this thing out of thing, and the input has default checked equals thing.completed. On the input, we need default value equals thing.doOn. Does that make sense why we had to do that? So you might be tempted to just put value, but again, you're going to get a warning from React if you do that. So we use default value. That way it will stay up to date with things as they change. So now we see 4/4/2017, which is pretty small. Change another one. Something in the future. Refresh the page. Still there. If we look out here, we would see that too. Due on 4/4/17. Due on 2017 8/17. Stores the dates in a different format, but they each figure it out. Good. I think we did the bonus credit. Add due date, dates to things. Go, team, go.